starting us off at number 10 is coronavirus. You guys already know. Now this newly identified disease has been spreading through China and has now reached other countries. Toronto included. I know it's not a country, but it's here. There have been deaths, there have been tears, so what even is it? The virus is part of a whole host of other viruses that cause respiratory illnesses like a cold, for example. Most people get coronaviruses at one point or another in their life, but it's usually super mild. Sometimes it can cause pneumonia and bronchitis, but this new version of it has infected 2,700 people and killed 80 people already, which is a huge jump from the 800 confirmed cases on Friday and the 20 deaths. That's in 2 days, people. Symptoms include sneezing, sore throat, diarrhea, and doesn't really have any specific treatment. Scientists believe the virus originated in Wuhan and was transferred from animal to human when they bought and ate infected snake meat. And unfortunately, it can transfer from human to human as well, but the primary mode is animal to human, so at least there's a safeguard there. They say for it to become a pandemic, it had to efficiently infect humans, replicate inside us, and spread fast, all of which it is doing, so it spread to different countries due to people traveling to Wuhan and then other countries after that, and before you know it, we all have coronavirus. I was on the subway coming to work and there were so many people wearing the masks and I didn't have one, so I was just breathing into my mouth like this and I was like, save my soul, I ain't getting coronavirus today. Coming in at number 9 is Marburg virus. Now this virus is a hemorrhagic fever virus and it comes from the same family as the Ebola virus. It's incredibly fatal and mostly found around Africa, but has also been found in Yugoslavia and Germany. The first outbreak happened in Marburg back in 1967 when a shipment of monkeys came from Uganda, half of which were infected with a weird virus, and so half the men that worked on that shipment arrived dead. It starts off with feeling like the flu with muscle aches and stuff like that, but it ends with skin peeling off and bleeding from multiple parts of the body. It was contained, but then it resurfaced in Congo and Angola. The disease stays dormant in a reservoir until it affects a susceptible animal, and the reservoir is actually the fruit bat. So as long as fruit bats are still around, this deadly disease will continue to be a problem, and next time we may not be able to contain it. Dun, dun, dun. At number 8 we have the Spanish influenza. This incredibly deadly pandemic broke out in 1918 and infected 500 million people around the world during its outbreak, and 50 to 100 million people died, which was about 3 to 5% of the Earth's population at the time. It was so bad that life expectancy in the US dropped by 12 years during the first year of the pandemic. It was highly contagious. If an infected person coughed or sneezed, more than 500,000 virus particles would spread to anyone standing nearby. I know it's not the Spanish flu, but even on the subway when people were coughing, I was like dodging them. And since it did break out during World War I, the movement of troops caused the flu to spread tenfold. It was that much more dangerous because patients could be dead within hours of symptoms showing up. It was lethal because it triggered a cytokine storm, meaning it would cause an overreaction of your immune system. Deaths were caused from advanced pneumonia, and the flu didn't just take down elderly people or babies who already had compromised immune systems, it took down healthy young adults, and it was the first of 2 H1N1 virus outbreaks, and the second one being swine flu, which we'll talk about later on. Filling our number 7 slot is Ebola, and I remember when the news about Ebola broke out while I was in my first year of university, and I was like hella scared. Now the disease is rare, but it is deadly. Ebola is a viral hemorrhagic fever virus like Marburg virus. It's believed fruit bats are to be blamed for hosting this virus as well, and then infecting other animals like gorillas and monkeys, who then infect the people who handle them or eat their meat or come into contact with their feces or their blood. After you've been infected, it can take anywhere from 2 days to 3 weeks for symptoms to actually start showing, and those include fever, muscle pain, sore throat, and that worsens to vomiting, diarrhea, and rashes, which eventually results in major decreased functionality of your kidneys and liver. When that starts happening, the patient will suffer from internal as well as external bleeding and major fluid loss. It kills an average of 50% of people it infects, which is a much higher number than I'd like, to be honest. The outbreak originated in the remote parts of Africa, mostly rainforest, because fruit bats just fly. It's so easy for them to literally shit everywhere and spread it like it's nothing. We should take them out, honestly. They're not doing good things for us. Let's take them out. I'm kidding, I'm not encouraging the extinction of a species. I'm not. Now at number 6 are nanoparticles. As you can imagine, they are extremely small particles that are being used in basically everything in modern medicine, in eyewear, in drugs, in food dyes. They even play a part in saving lives in regards to medical treatment and testing. However, and you knew knew there was going to be a however. Research has shown that they can actually have immunotoxic effects on us and change the function of our immune systems. And last time I checked, we need them. They can either enhance their functions or inhibit them, and not enough research has been done on its use, so whatever does happen is highly unpredictable, let alone solvable. Nanoparticles can cause inflammation, they can cross cell barriers no problem, and cause DNA damage in places most viruses can't reach. With their newfound widespread use, it could slowly but surely be the silent killer that none of us saw coming. But now you do see it coming because I just told you. So if it does kill us all, like I did warn you. Coming in at number 5 is monkeypox, and I didn't even know that existed, so there's that. Knowledge is power, folks. Now this virus spreads from someone handling bushmeat, from an animal bite or scratch, coming in contact with an infected animal's fluids, or just coming into contact with an infected person. Despite it being called monkeypox, it's mostly spread by rats in Central and West Africa. Now looks wise, it's similar to smallpox and chickenpox, and it's actually believed the smallpox vaccine can prevent you getting it altogether. Symptoms include muscle pains, fever, swollen ass lymph nodes, blistering rashes, and extreme lethargy. Symptoms show up 5 to 20 days after exposure and can last nearly 2 months. Owed to the name, it was first discovered among lab monkeys in 1958, but the first human cases came years later in 1970 in Congo. An outbreak even occurred in the US in 2003, and the source was traced back to a pet store selling imported rats that came from Gambia. The death rate of the virus is 10%, but the hard part of it is that it can't be detected during blood tests because it doesn't stay in your blood very long. At number 4 is the Arctic permafrost. With climate change looming over us like the cloud of depression of daily life, can we just take a side note and just say how poetic that was? I'm great. Anyway, many animals or their corpses have been emerging after being frozen in permafrost for however many thousands of years. And with ancient old animals turning up, that brings up the possibility of old viruses resurfacing that we are not equipped to handle. Scientists have already found the locked up DNA of a 30,000-year-old giant virus in Siberian ice, and nothing in this world is a better preserver than ice. The virus they found doesn't seem to be a threat to humans, thank God, but that doesn't mean there won't be another virus that shows up in a few years that won't be. Even the anthrax outbreak in Russia was dormant in a reindeer, and it was spread due to the thawing permafrost. So in conclusion, global warming will get us one way or another. It's just about time. Filling our number 3 slot is meningococcal meningitis. What a mouthful, I know, so I'm going to abbreviate it to MM for the ease of everyone, mostly me. So this bacterial infection inflames the membranes that cover your brain and spinal cord, and anything that affects your brain or spine is really bad news. It spreads like any common cold if someone sneezes or coughs near you, personal contact, through door handles, just any kind of touching. Symptoms include a sudden high fever, severe persistent headaches, difficulty looking at bright lights, confusion, vomiting. There's a vaccine for it, but it's not a be and end all cure, it's only preventative. The disease causes severe brain damage, and if left untreated, you have a 50% chance of dying. There are 30,000 cases in sub-Saharan Africa annually and 1,000 cases in the US, so I mean, it is out there. In the thousandfold. It is contagious, and it could very well kill you and us all. Now at number 2 is Black Death. I mean, with a name as ominous as that, I had to include it, didn't I? This pandemic was devastating. It killed anywhere from 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia during its outbreak from 1347 to 1351. It apparently originated in the dry plains of Central East Asia and then made its way to Europe via the Silk Road. It's believed fleas living on the back of rats were the main carriers of the plague, and obviously rats are literally everywhere and anywhere. Most people died within 2 days of catching it, and symptoms included fevers, disgusting rashes, vomiting blood, swollen lymph glands, like it was a super disease. Since transportation wasn't the fastest back then, it didn't spread as quickly as it would now, for example, and despite the slow transportation, it still killed that many people, so imagine how many it would kill now with our mega globalized society. Food for thought, people. And finally, at number 1 are swine and bird flu. Both of them are in the coronavirus family of viruses, so I'm not going to recap the science behind them because I already did that in number 10. I remember when I heard about the swine flu outbreak in 2009 and someone in Dubai had gotten it at the mall that I literally went to every day. I was like, Lord, give me the strength. It originated in Mexico and was very common among pigs, hence the name swine flu. It's hard for pigs to give it to humans, but if the transmission does occur, it can be lethal. The worldwide death toll is estimated to be 5 575,400 people. Then of course we have bird flu, also known as avian flu. Similar to swine flu, this flu also adapts to a specific host, i.e. birds, and is very easily transmissible from person to person, as is swine flu. Tens of millions of birds have died from the flu, and humans infected with it have a 60% chance of dying. The fatality rate of the outbreak of both was much higher than the normal flu, and if we're being real, I don't even know a place where birds can't be found other than Antarctica, so I mean, it is there. Despite the pandemic declared as over in 2010, if a mutated version were to emerge that could be caught airborne, the world could become contagion ASAP Rocky. Starting us off at number 10 is rabies. Now we've all heard of this one. Rabies is a viral disease. If left untreated, it's 100% fatal. Rabies can infect warm-blooded species and has even adapted to cold-blooded ones. It's most commonly found in dogs, and it's only hares, rabbits, and other small rodents, including rats, that almost never have rabies. So this one you actually can't blame on rats. The virus is present in the saliva and nerves of the rabid animal, so we get infected via a bite. Once infected, it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months to become symptomatic. Initially, symptoms aren't that telling, it's mostly just a fever and headache, but as it develops, it gets so much worse. It causes your brain to swell up, you can become slightly or partially paralyzed, paranoia ensues, hallucinations, delirium, and insomnia are also all part of the symptoms. And many people get hydrophobia, which is a fear of water, in the later stages of the disease because they start finding it impossible to swallow anything. Unable to quench their thirst, they start freaking out at the sight of water, and a lot of that is because the virus expands and assimilates in the salivary glands. And yes, I actually do know what I'm talking about. 80% of infected people get hydrophobia, and death usually occurs 2 to 10 days after becoming symptomatic. As of 2016, only 14 people in the history of people who have gotten rabies has actually survived. 55,000 people die of it yearly. Coming in at number 9 is cholera, also known as Blue Death. Now this infectious disease affects the small intestines. It's mostly caused by drinking water that's not clean or has been previously contaminated with human feces containing the bacteria, or eating food that was washed with that water. This sounds a lot like how I got food poisoning on my holiday. I had eaten some raw vegetables that were presumably washed with unclean water, and I was out vomiting a bunch. I had to be on a drip. It was absolutely horrible. Now humans are the only species affected with this disease, so that's also fantastic. You know, screw us. You can get tested for this via stool test, and symptoms include profuse watery diarrhea and vomiting a clear liquid. The onset of them are pretty quick. Once you've ingested the bacteria, it'll take you a few days to become symptomatic. An untreated person can produce 10 to 20 liters of diarrhea a day, and with severe cases, most people die. Because patients are losing so much hydration and fluids, they get sunken looking eyes, their skin becomes wrinkly and clammy, and will eventually turn bluish grey, hence the whole Blue Death nickname. 3 to 5 million people have been infected, and 30,000 to 130,000 people die from it every year. At number 8 we have tuberculosis. TB is an infectious disease that actually originated in ancient Egypt. Signs of the bacteria were even found in mummies back then. And when agriculture and domesticating animals came about, humans started getting TB from those animals. Careful for what you wish for. You may want a cat, but your cat may have TB. And once a person has it, one cough, one sneeze or spit, or them even speaking expels so many infectious droplets that one single sneeze can release 40,000 droplets, and any of those can infect you. TB can infect literally any part of your body, but it mostly attacks the lungs. Symptoms include fever, night sweats, loss of appetite, weight loss, and deformity of your nails. But there's active TB and there's latent TB. The former is contagious, the latter is not. I love how I'm giving you like a quick facts of every one of these diseases. Now the disease is very much linked to malnutrition and overcrowding, so it's associated with less developed countries. As of 2018, 25% of the world has TB. In 2017, 10 million people had it and 1.6 million of them died. Despite the number of cases declining, 80% of people in African and Asian countries still test positive for it. It's been with us since the ancient times and it's clearly not going away anytime soon. Like, Elon Musk, where are you at? You've done electric cars, it's time to find the cure to TB. Let's do it. Filling on number 7 slot is malaria. Now the deadly mosquito disease is transferred to humans when a mosquito infected with parasites bites us. It's not contagious, you can't just get it if you're next to someone who has it, thank God. Now initially it causes fever and other flu-like symptoms like muscle pain and chills, and that usually comes and goes in cycles, but the patient starts becoming symptomatic anywhere from a week to a month in. Some more severe types of the disease cause damage to major organs like the brain, heart, lungs, or kidneys. It can cause yellow skin, indefinite comas, and of course death. Each year about 210 million people are infected with it and 440,000 people die, most of which are young children in Africa who don't have the proper means or the funding or infrastructure in place to support them. Even if you are cured, a lot of malaria patients continue to relapse throughout the year, so I mean, are you really ever fully rid of it? Probably not. Well, I certainly didn't study biomedical diseases at university, but I can pull off that I can. Now at number 6 is the necrotizing fasciitis, also known as flesh-eating bacterial infection. Now this infection starts with the tissue below your skin before spreading through your muscle and your fat. It usually affects the arms, abs and legs the most and is fatal in 40% of cases, which is a damn lot. Its fatality is because of the fact the infection produces toxins that destroy your tissue, which is really not ideal as we do need tissue. Now symptoms include swelling, redness and pain in the affected area, and that's mild. Then comes the vomiting, the fever. Within 24 hours the bacteria is in your tissue and causes gangrene, peeling and discoloration. Most people who get it were literally in completely good health beforehand, so it's bloody scary. It can be treated with antibiotics, but only if you catch it early enough. Coming in at number 5 is smallpox. Now I know the last known case of smallpox was diagnosed in 1977 and it was eradicated 3 years later, but what if it somehow made a comeback? The disease originated from an African rodent virus about 70,000 to 16,000 years ago. It then spread to Asia, then America, and so on. It takes around 12 days for the patient to become symptomatic, but during that time the virus would be moving from cell to cell. The initial symptoms were the same as the flu. We have your fever, your muscle pain, etc. Then comes the vomiting, then the lesions would start appearing and they look like little small red dots. Little small red because clearly I don't have enough adjectives to say small. The lesions would then rapidly grow, especially in the mouth, and then rupture, releasing even more virus particles into your saliva. It was 30% fatal, but throughout time it's killed anywhere from 200 to 500 million people. Up until 1967, around 15 million cases of smallpox were reported every year. That is not a goddamn joke. 67 was not that long ago. At number 4 is yellow fever. Now you can contract this viral disease by getting bit by an infected female mosquito. Initially it'll be hard to tell whether you have it or not because the symptoms are similar to those of any cold-ish illness. You become symptomatic after 3 days to a week, and if the symptoms are mild, then the person usually only suffers from the disease for a week or so and then they're all good to go. We love a good recovery story. However, in 15% of cases, people enter the second deadly stage of the disease. Patients have recurring fevers, then comes a jaundice because of the liver damage, and not to mention the indescribable stomach pain. The patient then starts bleeding from the eyes, mouth and gastrointestinal tract, which could also cause them to vomit blood. It just keeps getting worse and worse as I keep talking. Yeah, I'm gonna still continue to talk. Delirium may also occur because the shit show that was already happening clearly wasn't enough. Those who do develop jaundice have a 20 to 50% chance of dying, and in severe cases it's 60%. In 2013, 127,000 people were infected and 45,000 died, and in the 18th and 19th centuries, it was known as the deadliest disease going around. Filling our number 3 slot is whooping cough, aka the 100-day cough. This highly contagious bacterial disease is caused by a bacteria that spreads via airborne droplets from infected people's coughs and sneezes. The person starts becoming symptomatic within a week or 2, and the symptoms start like their regular cold symptoms, and then they transition into a very intense cough that could lead to spasms or seizures. Fainting and vomiting can also occur after coughing. Patients get hemorrhages, hernias, rib fractures, and it also can cause the sacs in your lungs to rupture. The term whooping cough comes from the fact that after an uncontrollable coughing fit, the patient usually makes a high-pitched whoop sound as they try inhaling, which kind of sounds like me when I have a bad asthma bout. That's not good. Stage 2 lasts anywhere from 1 week to 3 months, and most cases of the disease are found in the developing world, but all ages are affected. 16.3 million people were infected in 2015 and 60,000 died. In 1990, the death toll was 138,000, so I mean, this is not a joke. Now at number 2 is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, aka CJD, and that's what I'm just gonna call it because it's easier and I feel like I've been through enough. I've honestly been through enough. So this disease, and bear with me, is caused by prions, which are tiny misformed proteins found in the neurons of our central nervous system. Because of their misfolding, that affects the way signals are processed and therefore can damage our neurons and therefore result in degeneration in the brain. It wasn't that hard to grasp, you guys. I made it as simple as I possibly could. Now the first signs of CJD are pretty critical. It starts off with rapidly progressing dementia, and then that leads to memory loss, then your personality changes, and it can also cause the person to see hallucinations. Involuntary jerky movements occur in 90% of people as well. Speech impairment sets in, balance and coordination dysfunction, and so forth. People that get diagnosed with it usually don't survive. It's universally fatal. Only 15% of people survive for 2 or more years, and that is because it causes the death of the brain's nerve cells. And I mean, no brain, no life, honey. And finally, at number 1 is measles. And I was shocked that people are not vaccinating their kids with the MMR vaccine, like mumps, measles, rubella people. My parents vaccinated me with this as soon as I was literally born. Not born, but like ASAP Rocky. I did not get anti-vaxxers at all. I don't stand you guys. Vaccines do not cause autism. It was fake news. The results of that study were made up. Like, come on, let's read a book, yeah? Either way, measles is highly contagious and is obviously caused by the measles virus. You get it if someone with it coughs or sneezes near you, or you're even close to them. It's the most contagious virus known to man, and that's not helped by the fact that, say you sneezed on a surface, it can live up to 2 hours on that surface long after you're gone. So say I come and touch it, I've got measles. It's so contagious that if someone sneezes near you, 90% of non-immune people nearby will catch it. Like, what the hell, that is a lot of people. People tend to become symptomatic after 10 to 14 days. It starts with conjunctivitis, which are red eyes, a cough, and then a fever. The rashes occur, the fever gets super high, the measles spots start showing up in the person's mouth as well. They look like small dots of like salt almost, and they're itchy and tend to spread all over the person's body. You should recover after 3 weeks unless any complications occur, which they usually do. Pneumonia can come about, we have diarrhea, bronchitis, brain inflammation, and so forth. Babies that get it can also suffer from permanent brain damage if they're not treated in time. It affects 20 million people yearly, and in 1980 alone, 2.6 million people died from it. Starting us off at number 10 is polio, also known as infantile paralysis. This infectious disease is caused by the polio virus, which basically colonizes the gastrointestinal tract, and it's highly contagious. The patient starts to become symptomatic anywhere between 3 days to a month, and then it can evolve into a type of polio that affects your CNS or a type that doesn't. If it does affect your central nervous system, then the patient will start experiencing extreme pain, vomiting, fever, and 1 to 5% of cases progress quite badly to a paralytic disease, and where the muscles become very weak, poorly controlled, and then eventually completely paralyzed. In infants, this can even extend into an infection in their brain tissue, which can then cause seizures, changes in mental stability, and so forth. This disease has literally been around for thousands of years, and despite developing a polio vaccine in the 1950s, we still haven't eradicated it, which means it could wipe out humanity. Coming in at number 9 is syphilis part 1. Now this one, as many of you may know, is an STI, meaning it's sexually transmitted, or it can be passed from a mother to her child during pregnancy. And this one will be a bit of a novel to explain since you have it in one of 4 stages, either primary, secondary, latent, or tertiary. Now in the primary stage, you get it via direct sexual contact with the actual lesions on the other person. And you yourself will develop a lesion anywhere between 3 days to 3 months after that first contact. In the secondary stage, it appears a month to 10 weeks after, and this one manifests on your actual skin, not just your genitalia. It causes a bunch of non-itchy pink rashes, it can cause warts, fever, weight loss, and in rare occurrences it can cause kidney diseases and inflammation of your optic nerves and joints. That's only the first 2, so let's get on to number 8. At number 8 is syphilis part 2. Now the tertiary stage can actually occur 3 to 15 years after initially being infected, and usually people who leave the infection untreated will develop into the tertiary stage. In this stage, tumor-like balls start forming, and they can literally grow anywhere on your skin, your bones, your liver, etc. And of course, congenital syphilis is passed via pregnancy, but most kids are born without symptoms. And the bad thing about syphilis is how common it is. In 2015, 45.4 million people were infected and 107,000 people died from it. Now there are antibiotics you can take to help reduce the infection. You can wear protection during sex, but we don't just have to deal with syphilis now, we have to deal with super syphilis, which is what the infection has been dubbed since becoming more and more resistant to antibiotics. Say what now? Resistant, you say? Now when an infection literally mutates like that, it's like natural selection for an infection. The strongest ones who are most immune to the medication survive and then infect other people. So the virus just gets stronger and stronger and more resistant to medication, and then we start worrying. Filling our number 7 slot, we have rotavirus. Now this contagious virus causes immense amounts of diarrhea. The virus is found in the person's feces several days before they actually become symptomatic and can stay there 10 days after recovery as well. You can get infected if, say, you put your unwashed hands that are contaminated into your mouth, if you eat contaminated food, or if you touch any contaminated surface and then put your hands in your mouth. So this is very common amongst kids who apparently have to put their hands in their mouth after everything. And keep in mind, when you take a shit and then flush, those particles come upwards, so you can easily get those particles in your mouth. It's not like people are out here scooping shit and putting it in their mouth. No one does that. Like I said, it's mostly children who get this one, and within 2 days they'll be feverish, vomiting, and letting out a lot of watery diarrhea. The poop will usually be black or tarry looking and can even include blood or pus. There are 111 million cases of this annually and around 440,000 deaths in kids under the age of 5. Now at number 6 is hepatitis C. Now this infectious disease that we've all heard of and have been told to get our vaccines for is mostly transmitted via intravenous drug use. In the developing world, it's mostly transmitted via unsafe medical procedures or blood transfusions. But 20% of worldwide cases have unknown transmission sources, so I mean, there's that. I guess we're just gonna sweep that under the rug. Now acute symptoms develop 2 weeks to 6 months after, and they're usually mild things like body pain, vomiting, dark urine, jaundice, and so forth. However, 80% of people develop a chronic infection, and in this type the person can easily not show symptoms for the first few decades. But they'll always be fatigued, it can lead to liver cancer, it's very common to develop cirrhosis, especially within people who are infected and drink a lot. In 2015, 143 million people were infected, and most deaths occurred due to the development of liver cancer or cirrhosis. Coming in at number 5 is leprosy, aka Hansen's disease. Now the way leprosy spreads isn't fully understood by researchers yet, so I don't really know how I'm meant to explain it to you guys, but the respiratory tract is the most likely route, and the source of the disease is apparently armadillos. Most people, if exposed to an infected person, aren't actually infected unless they have extensive contact with that person. Symptoms include eye problems, development of skin lesions, muscle weakness, thickening of facial hair, loss of feeling in your fingers and toes, and in some cases you can even become impotent. You can stay asymptomatic for nearly 5 years before actually showing, and the first sign of it are pink patches of skin that are completely numb to touch. Those patches can cause nerve problems, and that is reversible if treated early, but if not, that can actually cause paralysis. This is another ancient disease that hit its peak at 5.2 million cases in the 80s, but that's dropped to about 173,000 cases as of 2016. So we are getting lower, but it's still very much out there. At number 4 is typhoid, and I don't know how it took me 3 parts in this series to finally mention this bacterial disease, but better late than never, you guys. I'm always on it. Now there's no animal source for this one. Humans are the only known species that carry this disease, and it's usually spread through the fecal oral route, which I already explained for the rotavirus. There are 4 stages of symptoms when you have the typhoid fever. The first includes fever fluctuations, a bloody nose, a decrease in your white blood cell count, and a cough. That already seems absolutely awful, and that's only the first stage. I don't want to go on, but I must. Now in the second week, the person is too weak to get up, and delirium can also occur at this stage. Rosy spots start appearing on the person's chest and ab area, and you start hearing these rattling sounds from their lungs. Diarrhea can also happen at this point, and the spleen and liver can swell up as well. Do we want to talk about week 3? We must. Now week 3 can bring about many complications, including pneumonia, intestinal hemorrhage, muttering delirium, even more fever, and the risk of bleeding increases tenfold. At the end of these awful 3 weeks, you may be cured or you may get worse. In 2015, 12.5 million cases were reported, and 150,000 of those were fatal. Do not take typhoid lightly, people. Filling our number 3 slot is diphtheria. Now the source of this infection is unknown. We have no idea whether it was an animal or not, so we're just gonna assume it originated from humans somehow until researchers tell me otherwise. You can get infected by someone infected coughing or sneezing near you, and via contact with any of the skin lesions that an infected person has. Now after that exposure, you start becoming symptomatic between 2 to 7 days after, and that includes a fever, a sore throat, your skin turning bluish, difficulty and pain swallowing and breathing, and blood-stained, bad-smelling nasal discharge. Ugh. Within 2 days, the infection starts attacking and destroying tissue in the respiratory system, and that dead tissue builds up, forming a grey coating. Now that coating covers your nose, your tonsils and throat, which is why it becomes so painful to breathe or even swallow. It can result in bull neck as well, which is a massively swollen neck and throat. The 70s saw 1 million cases of the infection yearly, but nowadays it's a lot more uncommon, thank God. The death rate in cases is still 5 to 10% though, so I mean, we're not completely safe, are we? Now at number 2 is mumps. MMR vaccine, people, let's get it. I've said this twice now. Listen to your resident top 10 doctor. I'm not qualified, but I know a shit ton. Okay? Now this viral disease is highly contagious and spreads ASAP Rocky. It's spread via sneezing and coughing and of course direct contact with the infected person. We already know this by now, these are the basics. The patient becomes symptomatic around 2 weeks after exposure, and it's usually more severe in adults than it is kids. Now you're contagious before even becoming symptomatic, a lot like coronavirus, so that's just fantastic. The person will start feeling muscle pain, feverish, their parotid salivary glands will swell up a lot, kinda looking like bull neck as well. Complications occur in 15% of cases, and that could mean pancreatitis, inflammation of your heart or testes, and even permanent deafness. It's completely preventable if you've had 2 doses of the MMR vaccine, so hello! Listen to me. 1% of the world's population is still affected every year, so come on now. Come on people, let's listen to me. And finally, at number 1 is gastroenteritis, aka infectious diarrhea. And this is caused by so many factors, by parasites, fungus, a certain type of bacteria, etc. You can get it from drinking contaminated water or sharing something like a water bottle with an infected person. One of the biggest causes is actually bottle feeding kids with improperly sanitized bottles. Come on guys, the kids deserve more care than that. A lot of adults actually act as reservoirs for this disease because they could have developed immunity to it but still carry the organisms. The person will become symptomatic within 12 to 72 hours, and diarrhea and vomiting will hit them like a truck. Dehydration is very common as well because of the diarrhea, and that can lead to poor skin turgor, which means the person's skin will look very sunken. Now don't laugh at me, but the Bristol stool chart, which is essentially a chart showing what kind of you may be excreting, is actually really helpful with gastroenteritis. In developing countries, malnutrition mixed with this disease can cause stunted growth as well. In 2015, there were 2 billion cases, with 1.3 million of those resulting in death. Even in 2011, there were 1.7 billion cases. So this is not a joke. This whole list was not a joke.